we've got a great guest for you here today. Sarah Caldwell is here with us. And as I mentioned at the start of the show, she's the author of a children's book that I think is going to be of particular interest to all of you because it's a beautifully illustrated book, and that we're going to ask her what her inspiration was. But the main mission of the book is to help children have an appreciation and an acceptance of both autism and epilepsy and other issues where there might be seizures. So that's a really exciting thing. And we want to welcome Sarah to the show. Sarah, thank you so much for being with us.
Hi.
Hi. Now, first of all, we have to ask, where are you coming to us from?
So I'm in the UK, in Cheshire, in the UK.
And I'm loving your accent. It is crazy, crazy fabulous. So I have no idea what time of day or night is it there.
6:30 in the evening,
In
tea
the
time.
evening. Okay, so it's not the middle of the night at least, because it
No.
looks like it's pretty sunny. Great. So we've got to start with this wonderful book. Tell us about the book, the name of the book, and where we can get it, and then tell us what the inspiration was for it.
So the book is Amelie and Alby's Adventures, and it's available through Amazon. And the inspiration is my eldest daughter, Amelie. So Amelie was born with a rare condition. It's sebaceous nevus syndrome. And as part of that, she's kind of got an umbrella of different conditions. So autism, epilepsy, and sensory processing disorder. And so I think so. Emily's 7 now, and over kind of the last few years and kind of experiencing just kind of general day to day life, whether it's going to the supermarket and Emily decides that every single thing that goes in the trolley, is getting flung out, or you go to the park and she's resistant that she doesn't want to get out of the swing, and everybody's kind of staring and looking and thinking, what's she doing? And it was just a platform to try and help educate children and families, really, just kind of kind of the world through Amelie's eyes is the best way to describe it. So kind of just seeing her in the park, what's her interpretation, how much has she kind of taken on from a sensory processing side. And she has a best friend, Alby the dragon, that kind of is there to help and kind of support her along the way. So yeah, it's just a kind of a nice tale. It's like a rhyming tale to kind of just go through those day-to-day experiences.
And I can't even imagine how important it was for you not only to represent your daughter, but I hear from so many people who have kids on the spectrum who are also having seizures. Some of them have not yet been diagnosed with epilepsy, because my understanding is that you have to have a certain number of seizures before you get the dual diagnosis. But the minute I said that that's what this book was about, boy, the interest was overwhelming, Sarah. People were like, really? Well, we need that book. So talk a little bit about what it means to you and what you hope this book will accomplish, both for your daughter and for the community.
I think for me, it's the raising awareness piece, especially. Hopefully, it'll help educate typical families. I don't like using that word, but typical families, and something that's enjoyable for them to read as part of their kind of book collection, and to start seeing it as the norm, so to speak, and it to not be different. And the feedback that I've had so far has been lovely, because people have kind of said, it's actually gave us that platform to be able to have a conversation as a family, because in there it talks about Emily being non-verbal and talking with her hands rather than being able to use words. And there's children that are saying, well, why does she use her hands, why can't she talk? And unless they've kind of going to ever come up against that, they're never going to ask those questions. And then also from an epilepsy point of view, it can be scary, so if it's your first time of seeing a seizure and that person, whether it's a child or an adult, and it's in public, I just thought it's a nice kind of soft way to kind of introduce that in a book, because I've got a younger daughter that's 3.5, and I kind of thought, how can I teach my daughter about epilepsy without it being too frightening? And then I tried to have a look for those types of books and kind of struggled to come across it. So that's kind of where the messages come from and the why. And I'm just hoping that it's going to be kind of a first of a series. So I will be expanding from this. I'm in the middle of writing the second one at the moment, which will kind of touch on other areas, but I'm hoping it'll just become a series that people kind of get invested in and want to continue to kind of follow the journey.
And the illustrations are beautiful. I know Traven's about to show the cover of the book. Did you do the illustrations or did someone else?
No. No, I definitely didn't.
There it
So
is.
it's a lady called Rosanna Laws that did the illustration on the book for me.
It's very beautiful and loving and caring and it feels very watercolor-esque, but
Yeah,
very accessible for anyone. And I love this idea of, here in the United States, I don't know if Mr. Rogers was a big deal in the UK, but here, Mr. Rogers, when I was a kid, was a very big deal. And one of the things that Mr. Rogers would do is that he would always talk about things on the show, and he was so calm and steady, and he would talk about something in a way that children could take in the information non-judgmentally, and he would allow them to have their feelings about it. And it was such a sad day when Mr. Rogers retired. I feel like other things like Sesame Street and what Mr. Tiger's neighborhood sort of took it's a spin-off of Mr. Rogers, but I feel like they really set this great example that when we want to talk to a child about something, it's better to have them experience it in a way that allows them to have their feelings and normalizes it, which is why I think it's so important that when every night we need to be reading to our kids, every night, and reading with them when that comes about. Regardless, I know for some of you, you're like, oh, my child won't allow me to read. We'll talk about that in a second, because this is an important thing, reading to our children from a very young age. And you need to have enough books, a library of enough books, or go to the library on a regular basis to have different topics, but it's a great teaching tool. And yet, for me, I was always wanting a book that I could read to my son where he could recognize himself, that he can see himself in the story. And at a certain point, when we started including the A word in our conversations, the children's books were few and far between that dealt with this. And I'm hearing even less that deal with seizures and epilepsy. So I always think when we have somebody on who's written a book, who is this book for? And I think, first of all, it's for our kiddos that are on the spectrum to be able to recognize themselves. But I love that you brought up that, reading it to your younger child so that she has an understanding of the fact that this is your sister and it's okay. It's okay. And I hope that when adults are reading this with their kids, that they will hear the message, Sarah, because I think the kids
yeah.
will pick it up fast. It's the adults that are slow to learn. Uh, so tell us again, where can we get the books?
It's on Amazon. So it's Amazon or the webpage, which is amelieandalby.com.
Okay, and you mentioned that you think that this is going to be a series. How lovely for your daughter that she's going to be featured
Yeah.
in a series. So we will look forward to more of that. Now I want to shift to talking, since I don't know that I have ever heard you say what it is that your daughter was diagnosed with before. And since we're here and have you, I'm just going to guess that you are not the only person that's had a daughter diagnosed with this. Talk to us about your daughter and what life is like for her day to day, and tell us a little bit. I don't even remember, say it again for us, what she was diagnosed with.
Sebaceous nevus syndrome.
Okay.
So basically, when Amelie was born, the only apparent kind of differences, so to speak, was that she's got a skin condition. So there's kind of bald patches on her head where the hair hasn't grown through. And originally they thought they were birthmarks. And then when Amelie was 12 weeks old, that's when she had her first seizure.
Mm.
And that kind of opened the gate up then in terms of, what's going on. So Amelie had about 100 seizures a day. So it kind of
Oh,
spiraled straight away from being a baby. And we got to a point where we went through 7 different medicines and they weren't doing anything. So she got approved for epilepsy surgery. And she ended up having brain surgery in Great Ormond Street in London. So she had a left temporal lobe resection, and that's part of the condition. So basically, the brain, just wasn't formed correctly, and that's hence why she was having the seizures. So we went through the surgery, and then 6 months post surgery, she started seizing again, but a
Mm.
completely different type of seizure. So she went from having focal seizures into West syndrome. So it's a spasm instead. And then so she still seizes today, kind of daily, and we just have to kind of maintain it with the medicine that we can do because she's already had the surgery. But in herself, she's, a happy little girl. She knows no different. She's somebody who kind of strives through every challenge that's kind of been thrown her way. She was non-verbal. I would say it's still kind of she's pre-verbal, so to speak. So within the last 12 months with lockdown in the UK and them kind of homeschooling, we've managed to get her to learn up to 100 words in context. So she just keeps amazing, she's amazing. She just keeps shocking us every single day with something new that she learns, really.
I can't even imagine. Was she your first child?
Yeah,
So
thrown in a
you're
deep end.
well, and you forgive me, but you look incredibly young. And so I can't imagine being a young woman having your first baby 12 weeks old. You're overwhelmed anyway. I don't know anybody who wasn't overwhelmed at 12 weeks with their first baby. And then she has a seizure. Like, did you know that that's what it
Yeah.
was the first time she had one?
No, I had no clue. So with the seizure type that she had originally, the colour just completely went out of her face. So she'd go like a bluey grey colour. And at the time I was obviously on maternity leave and I was just giving her a feed basically. And naively she was choking. And I was just thinking, is it what am I doing wrong? And luckily, and I always say there's somebody that was watching over me, but I went out the front of my house and literally at the time where I've kind of panicked and gone out the front, there was a lady that walked past the front of my house and she was a nurse.
Oh,
And she said to me, your baby's having a seizure, you need to call the ambulance. And I was just a bit like, what on earth? Because I've never witnessed it myself before. So that's kind of where it all began.
wow. Somebody was
Yeah.
looking out for you to put a nurse right outside your
Yeah.
door. Oh my goodness. And then having 100 seizures a day, I don't know, like, how did you deal with that, Sarah?
It was a struggle. It was at the time, it was kind of the picture, so to speak, that you think you're gonna have of mat leave and going to baby groups and, meeting all these new mums and kind of socializing and doing, the new mum things that you're expecting to do. And it kind of turned into she would either seize or she would sleep because she was recovering from the seizure. A lot of the time we would just stay in, she wasn't well, or just kind of stay local and go for walks and things like that. So it completely kind of changed, and obviously a lot of hospital visits and stays and things like that as well. So it was, yeah, it was you kind of your whole world is kind of turned upside down. And I think with every single seizure, it never becomes easier, so to speak. The feeling that you get that first time round is exactly the same as how you kind of feel each time. For some reason, it just kind of you just kind of get used to it and build a barrier through it.
Wow. And so I'm just wondering, like, who was in your corner? Who was your big support in those early days while you were trying to figure it out? Did you have anybody that you could lean into, Sarah?
Yeah, I think for me, family's been a huge support, the family network that we've got around us and friends as well. And then I think as part of the journey, the specialists that kind of came on board and, we looked for a certain kind of neuro doctor that specialized in Amelie's case. And he was amazing. So he's supported us through that whole journey as well.
Amazing. And so now, how many kids do you have now?
Two girls.
And was there a part of you when you found out that you were going to be graced with a second child? Was there a part of you that was worried that she would also have seizures?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So with Amelie, with it being so rare, we were advised that they didn't kind of know whether Arabella, my youngest, whether she was going to have any seizures or any kind of complications. So they made a point of me going in weekly, doing a lot of checks and, just checking how everything is. But as any mum, when you're pregnant, you're anxious, aren't you, of the whole
Yeah,
journey and,
yeah.
what's going to be. But yeah, so Bella she isn't on the spectrum and she doesn't have epilepsy or anything. She's like a mum role model for a sister.
Wow. Well, I'm glad because I'm sure that she is helpful with her sister. So now Amelie, you said, is 7 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm so interested in the fact that staying at home for a year meant that she's gained some skills. Does this make you a
Yes.
little bit ticked off at the school? Like, are you a little bit mad like that might have
Just
happened if
just a
they've
little.
been doing what they should have been doing?
Yeah, so it's kind of split side. So I think kind of the bonus is being, because obviously I work full time typically. So it's lovely to have had that time of a one to one. It kind of took me back to the mat leave that I didn't feel like I had, so to speak, that kind of one to one time. But then on the flip side with Amelie, when she's out of routine, it really kind of shakes her, so to speak. And, it's really hard to kind of get the concentration. But we managed to kind of just take snippets through the day where she was with us, she would concentrate and she'd kind of sit down. And with that, Bella got involved in the activities.
Mhm.
Uh, so it was good from that aspect, and recording it and videoing every single kind of new word or sign that she was learning. But it does kind of make you reflect and think, is she in the right setting? I'm not qualified, I'm not a speech therapist. Why have I been able to get that out of her, but they haven't in school? So yeah, it does make you think.
What's going to happen? And I know it's a little bit different there right now. For the longest time, I'm in LA, and for the longest time, we were the hot spot for the world, and it was the worst. And now, they're telling us in less than 30 days, we're going to be 100% open and everything's going to be back. Where you are you going back into the classroom yet, or is there a plan to go back in the classroom?
Yeah, so she is back in school and she is in the classroom. She's in a special needs school. So she's in a special provision where she gets a one-to-one. So schools are back open.
And are you going to push for, like, are they aware of how much progress that she made with you? Because I love this. I love how we all shortchange ourselves. And I love that your thought process was like, I'm not a speech and language pathologist. And yet you got more than anybody else has ever gotten. So I just want to celebrate you, first of all, because you're amazing on every front. But now that you know this, are you going to push for them to do more at school?
Yeah, I've reached out whilst we were in lockdown, and we've weirdly got a meeting tomorrow. So
No.
we everybody kind of aligned to kind of go through it and to kind of reevaluate her kind of educational health plan.
Yeah. I think sometimes, listen, I love teachers. I'm a former teacher, and I love everybody who works with our kids, and I think that they all mean well, most of them anyway. But I do think that sometimes they get comfortable thinking our kids can't do it. And maybe now they will see that she can learn those things and they'll push harder for it. I'm going to wish that for you, that they get super excited about it. So, what an amazing mom you are. I think we've got a couple of people who've written in the chat and said how incredible it is that you've written this book, because I think it's a really healthy way to take all the things and experiences that you have and give it as a gift to other people, and celebrate her. Forevermore, she's going to be the title of this book. Does it give her some self-esteem, do you think?
I don't know if she's got the understanding. We read it daily, and she'll
Mhm.
pick the book and she'll give it to me or a sister. But she's very obsessed with the red car, so she's got an obsession over transport and cars. So she won't really let us budge past that piece. But I do think she recognises the illustration has her down to a T, so it does look like Amelie. So she does enjoy it.
I think that that's wonderful. So I think it's incredible. Some people are writing in saying that they want to write a book, and I always say to people, if you want to write a book, write a book. And we'll be happy when you've got your book published. We'll be happy to have you on, like Sarah, to talk about your book. Bert, you said that you want to do a children's book about birds. Bert, do it. Life is short. You might as well do it. There was a day when you didn't have this book done and you decided, I'm going to do it, Sarah. I'm sure it was hard. You got your hands full. You're working full time. You got two girls. You got extra. How did you get it done?
I think it's been in the back of my mind for a while, but it was just sandwiching that time, whether it's an hour each evening, and just kind of putting that time aside when the children are asleep and you can focus on writing something, and just keep him focused. I had it on the top of my book kind of bookshelf, kind of away from the girls so they couldn't reach it, and just kept going back to it. And I kind of found for me that nighttime worked. So that's what I went with.
I love it. I feel like, a part of it is therapy and you're putting it out there and it will help other people. So we really want to encourage everybody, get the book, Amelie and Albie's Adventures, excuse me. You can get it on Amazon. You can also, Traven has put it in the chat, amelieandalbie.com. You can go there and you can order it there, although it will be in pounds, not dollars. So I'm sure that it has a way of translating that, but I saw that this morning. That's how I knew that you weren't somewhere here in the States that we were going to be talking to. But I really want to encourage, and I always say when getting these books, it's a wonderful thing to get two. And there's always somebody, it's somebody's birthday coming up, or something. And what a great gift if you get one for your child and then you get one for their best friend at school, or your friend's friend that you're trying to get them to do play dates. Add it to their library, and what you will do is spread awareness and acceptance. And giving a child a book is always, I think, the best thing that you can do, because toys come and go, but books last forever. So I celebrate you, Sarah. Really remarkable. We can't wait until you write more, and we'll have to have you back when you've got more in the series. Do you know what the subject matter of the second book is going to be?
Yeah, so the next one's going to focus more around kind of ADHD and the sensory processing side of things.
Okay, can I request? And you probably have already thought about this. Are you going to put your younger daughter in the book?
She's told me I've got to.
Well, okay, I'm with her. I'm with her because you know what else? The other thing that people write in and tell us all the time, there isn't enough out there about the siblings.
Yeah.
For them to have it normalized that this is what my life is like, this is what my life looks like, this is my brother, my sister, I love them. And it's not always about me and all the feelings that I have about that. It's a really important topic. So please make sure, I love that she already told you she has to be in it. I think that the siblings grow up to be the most amazing people on the face of the planet. I have yet to meet somebody on the autism spectrum that I don't like, and I have yet to meet anybody who is the sibling of somebody on the autism spectrum that I don't like. They're all amazing people. And that's a pretty broad statement. So that they're all amazing, but that is my science, my data has shown that to be true. So please give both of your girls a hug. We encourage everybody to go and get the book, but get two of them at least. And I always say too, if nothing else, get one for your child's teacher to have them add it to their library, because then that will be something that a generation of kids will read. And if your children are no longer in school, what a great gift to give to the local library or the local school. It's a really good service that you would be doing. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you give those girls a hug from us, okay?
I will do. Thank you.
All right, you take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.
To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.